I'll call the regular meeting of the Irmo Town Council to order, and I will recognize Councilman Hoot to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On with me in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening asking your blessings upon this council, that our decisions will be fair and pleasing. We also ask that you give a special blessing to those folks in Boston that have experienced a most dreadful experience. Lord, that's something that we haven't had to endure on our land, and we ask your blessings and strength that we may come through this. Guide them and keep them, return them to their families. Bless our servicemen that are in foreign lands and service women that are fighting to give us the right to be here and speak freely tonight. We ask all of these things in our Heavenly Father's name. Amen. Amen.
Next item on the agenda is the reading of the minutes from April 2nd. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as written?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? Being none, all in favor of approving the minutes as written, do so with show of hands. And approved. Next item is the administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Any questions of Mr. Brown on anything? Being none, one thing I wanted to ask on that ribbon cutting, the Pro, where is that at? Is that in town?
What? I'm sorry?
The Pro Chiropractic for later this week? You know where that one is?
I don't know for sure. I mean, I got that from Tiffany, and she's not here to tell me where it is, so I don't know exactly where it is.
Any other questions? None being. Next thing on the agenda is receipt of communications. Is there any communication anyone would like to share? And next item is presentation by citizens. This is a place where citizens can come speak to the town council in regards to stuff that's on the agenda tonight. All we ask is you give us the name and address for the record, and then also which agenda item it is you'd like to speak to. And seeing none, we will move to the next item, unfinished business, and there is no unfinished business. And next item would be new business. Item A, approval to sell a portion of Lexington Avenue to Irmo Smiles. Is there a motion for approval?
I'd like to withdraw that.
Okay. Well, we can just not make a motion, it'll go away.
Okay.
All right. And next item is approval of Lexington Avenue easement with Irmo Smiles Industry. Is there a motion for approval of the easement?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I believe you have a paper written up, drawn up by Mr. Moore, and has given them rights to improve this area. And do you?
I've got the easement.
But
Right
I
here.
think it would be good if maybe Jake Moore would explain what we're going to do, what we could do.
It's really very simple. This is up by Irmo Elementary School. Dr. Raymond and Dr. Raymond are here. Mr. Dr. Raymond has the orthodontic center right outside of town, and Mrs. Dr. Raymond, I was very happy to learn, is going to be moving her dentistry office to the old Bob Capes property right outside of Irmo Elementary. As I'm sure most of you know, the Raymonds have been very, very supportive of many of the undertakings of Irmo and some of its related activities in the past several years. They have been tremendous supporters of Arbor Day, beautification, and many of the other things that we have tried to do. And I, for one, being a big fan of business, and just delighted that Mrs. Dr. Raymond is going to be locating her dental office here in Irmo. From what I can gather, she has a sterling reputation as a dentist. I know some of her patients who think she's just wonderful. I also understand that she doesn't hurt you if you go into dental work.
Mr. Dr. Raymond has a very nice office.
Yes, he does.
Also right on Wakemark Boulevard, which is an asset.
The proposal is basically to provide them with an easement to provide curb and guttering and beautification between the roadway and their dental office. This will be a tremendous help to them because it will actually afford them some additional parking and make it to where the customers of the dental center are not going to be quite as inconvenienced coming in and out of the dental office. So it'll help the dental office. It ought to basically help the town of Irmo as well because it will provide a distinct curb in the driveway coming into Irmo Elementary. It will preserve that big willow oak tree. He will not be taking it out. That big willow oak tree will stay there. Hopefully the construction will not disturb the root system, but the construction is whatever it is. He has come forward with a landscaping plan that involves, I think, 5 or 6 new trees, either oak trees or crepe myrtles, I believe, along with a significant amount of vegetated buffer between the parking area and the driveway. I've seen the plans of the new building itself. It is something that we can all be proud of. I think it will be an overall addition to town compared to what was there. Although I like the outside look of the Bob Cates building, it was basically falling down inside and could not be salvaged. The easement that we prepared, we are advising that we provide them with an easement rather than a sale. Number one, trying to get a valuation of that property would have entailed a appraisal, and God knows what the thing would actually have been worth, if anything. The value of the property as it sits would probably have been worth less than the amount it would take to appraise it. The easement also gives simply an easement if in fact we own it. As you know, some of the actual ownership of the rights-of-way going back to 1890 are established primarily by way of plat and not by deed, and I don't even think we have a deed to it. I just think we have ownership of it by acquiescence and prior claim. So if we provide simply an easement as to those things which we do have, if it turned out that John Doe owned it instead of us, we would not have any potential exposure. So you're lessening the exposure to the town. Additionally, in order to alleviate any potential claims that you're giving somebody something for nothing, the easement provides that if you ever did want it back, you can get it back on 90 days notice. Chances of that ever happening, in my humble opinion, are slim to none. But so you're not really giving away anything. In my humble opinion, what you're getting is a very qualified professional office, good looking, well maintained, with very solid citizens who will be a benefit to this town. We're getting significant beautification, and part of what we're getting from the easement is actually a requirement that they do the landscaping and that they maintain the landscaping as on the plan. So in my estimation, I was asked to prepare the easement. Dr. Raymond has agreed to pay the costs of the actual preparation of the easement. He's paid for the survey, he's paid for the preparation of the easement, and the document itself is relatively self-explanatory and relatively simple. If you look at the easement as prepared, it shows the easement area, it shows the landscaping area. He and his wife are here, or she and her husband, however we want to look at it, are here to basically address any questions the council may have. In my humble opinion, this is a very real win-win situation, and Irmo has always attempted to be very business-friendly, and it would certainly seem that this would be not only a business-friendly, but an environmental-friendly and a community-friendly thing for us to consider. I would recommend it wholeheartedly. Thank you. Question?
What's the chances of them continuing this improvement over at my house? And I mean, those planes you showed me were fantastic. I mean, all the work vegetation putting in.
It's beautiful, Barry. I am, of course, I have a slight interest in town beautification, and I am incredibly excited to know that we're going to pick up some additional trees, not lose any, and wind up with a vegetative buffer that's pretty in a building. I'm just jacked. I'm excited about it. And they're here tonight too. They're excited too. Dr. Raymond called me when they started construction. I think he was like a kid at Christmas. He was just wanting to let me know that we started construction. So I've ridden by and watched it too as it's come down. I think every time I ride by, they're out there looking at it. I'm not sure when the construction will be finished up. When will it be done?
It'll be sometime October.
So
This October?
Wow. Move fast.
Faster than your park.
You mean to be ready to do season light in October already? All right. Well,
Any question? The only question I wanted to ask is, it looks like on whatever that road, what's that road, Lexington?
Lexington Avenue.
There's 1, 2, 3, whatever, 7, and I guess those will stay. They'll redo this little spot here, and then they'll have parking on that side, kind of like they got now.
Correct.
To it. But all we're doing is kind of letting them use this side of the road, or this side of their parking.
To put a curb around
And
here.
put a curb around there and do whatever for that.
Correct.
And this will kind of still stay to some degree.
it doesn't look like much. It's not much. It's no inconvenience to us, but it's a heck of a big deal to them.
So, all in favor of approving the easement for Lexington Avenue to Irmo Smiles, do so with show of hand. And next item is first reading of ordinance 1304 to amend the Irmo Town Code, Chapter 2, Section 264, Rules of Order and Orders of Proceeding to add discussions. Mayor, is there a motion for first reading? I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
I need to ask something, so I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, tell me what this is going to do.
Let me make a note here.
Okay.
Right now we have in our, we call it the ordinance book, basically this thing right here, call to order, pledge allegiance, invocation, reading the minutes and so forth. And then you have unfinished business, new business, and then you would have discussions and then presentation by citizens, executive session, and adjournment. So you'd
Is
be
this to
adding a-
discuss things that aren't on here?
Well, this is just to give a place to discuss things. Technically, we shouldn't be discussing things under new business. New business is for stuff that you make a motion for and you second it and you vote on it, you approve it, and you do all that. Like Richland County, for instance, has a area called discussion items only, where
That's all.
doesn't have to have a second, and I don't know how they end it. I mean, technically, you could be there all night because you're not got a motion, you ain't got a question, you can't call for the question. But it just gives us a place to do it as opposed to doing it under new business and not really, we shouldn't be doing it because it's not
new
an
business
action
ought to be
item.
motion, second,
Yeah.
vote, move on.
And if we want to do discussion,
If it
then
were
we need to,
limited in some way.
well, that's the problem with discussions, and that's why you don't normally have them on your thing, is because there's no way to end it.
Well, right now, if you have a motion and it is seconded, then you can have discussion.
Right.
And if discussion gets carried away, you can call a question.
Right.
And then you vote on the call, and if the call passes, it's over, we move on to the next item.
I've been to a lot of other council meetings where there wasn't any. They made a motion, they seconded, they voted, they moved on.
Right.
You know,
But
and
this is for
that's
those
what-
items where we've been discussing stuff, they don't,
That's right.
so we can either say we're not going to put discussions on the agenda anymore and just leave them off, which, you know, I'm fine with that too, but I think there is times we need to discuss stuff, and it's better to discuss it publicly than it is to discuss it, say, privately. But we need to, if we're going to do it, we just need to put it on the agenda and have a spot for it. If at some point down the road, you end up with 24-hour discussions, then you gotta
Well, we don't need
figure
that.
that, or just take it
When you
off.
first brought up the farmer's market thing, I thought that was the silliest thing I ever heard in my life. I said, we can't do that. Then I saw the value after we discussed it. So there is value to
But
it.
nothing prevented you from doing that.
Well, our agenda does right now. Technically, it's not a new business, so we shouldn't be doing it. But I know we've done it, and
If we
think
don't
there's
do
some-
this, can we just continue to do it the way we've been doing it?
well, we shouldn't. I mean, we don't have a place for it.
Sure,
Well, you
we
can have approval for discussion.
yeah, I mean,
Well, you'd have to have a motion and a second, and then what are you gonna call a question on? I mean, you'd have to write it in, or do it in a way that you can actually vote on whatever you're gonna vote on, and then you ought as well just put it
well,
on.
I mean, a discussion item might turn into a vote on something.
If you put it on there for passage, you approve it. Then you
Right.
could vote it down if you didn't want to, but you'd have to put it in a way that you would word it in a way that you're gonna get a motion, a second, and a possible vote. But if we're going to do discussions, we ought to have them on the agenda as a discussion item and have a spot for it and be done with it. If we're not, then we shouldn't put them on the agenda anymore.
Mr. Moore, I'd like to ask Mr. Moore's opinion about that, about discussions. Is it fine like it is?
The purpose of the agenda is so that the public will actually know what it is you're going to do. So it would seem to me that if you're going to follow the intent of the law and to give as much public notice of public business as can humanly be done, if you're going to have a discussion item of some sort, it ought to be either on the basis of a first reading to do something or as a discussion item. I don't see anything at all wrong with creating an actual agenda item referred to as discussion and placing items for discussion on the agenda which need to be discussed. I'm not sure I answered your question, but
We cannot discuss this item unless it says discussion?
you know, I don't know, again, off the top of my head, I don't know of any case that says you're not free to discuss anything you want to discuss in an open meeting. I don't think that by simply having discussion items on an agenda, that it limits you from discussing those things that are town business that you want to discuss. I mean, they say that you can't meet away from meeting to discuss town business, and by negative implication, I would assume that would mean that you can discuss town business when you're in a meeting. So I don't think that having an item for a discussion item on an agenda necessarily precludes you from talking about anything you want to talk about. You know, on the other hand, having it as an item on the agenda certainly is another effort to comply with the sunshine laws and to try to give the public as much notice as you possibly can. I would see nothing wrong with creating a discussion section on the agenda.
yeah, but we do it now. We do it now, like we had an item on there that says I'd like to discuss the issue of farmer's market.
Sure.
And we talked about it amongst the cordialness of this council.
Sure.
Nobody had a problem with that. Nobody, I don't think anybody ever emailed us and said that they have a problem from the audience that said that we didn't want to discuss it.
There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, without having done any research, there's
Right.
nothing wrong with doing it either way. You can have it under new business.
Well, I mean, we have a cordial council here. I think that I respect a lot of folks on this council, and I trust them enough that if I need to have an issue that's pressing, and because we can't get together outside of this public setting to discuss these things, why can't we have it like we've been doing before and just put it on the agenda and say, I'd like to discuss this issue?
There's nothing.
There's nothing wrong with that, right?
As long as you put it on there as a motion. New business is
Fine, it might
for...
turn into a motion after the
No,
discussion.
you can't do that either.
Why not?
Because you got to be amending the agenda.
No, would be.
Yeah,
If I
it
put
would.
if I put an item on it that says,
you
I'd like to
put-
discuss the farmer's market, the potential of having a farmer's market. And during that discussion, we found out that, yes, everybody's in agreement that this, we need to do that it's a great idea. And then we turn it into an action item.
You can't do that. If you put it on there as a discussion item, and then you decide you want to make a motion, and it's not on the agenda, that's amending the agenda to make a new business item, and you can't do that. Until that law is clarified, you can't. And you can't put stuff under new business unless it's a motion with a first and a second, because that's what that's for, is business.
Well, I think that's
Discussions
much
are not business, discussions are discussion.
I think we have much more respect for each other on this council than to be so nitpicky or so by the rules of Robert's Rules of Order that we can't have a legitimate dialogue between us. I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll shut
I would
my mouth.
agree too, but if we're going to have them, let's go ahead and put it under. What's the problem with just putting them under there? Then you know it's on there, then you're on there, and then you're covering it.
But that's what we've done since I've been on council for 10 years.
No, we haven't.
Yes,
I
we
think we
have.
probably had 4 or 5 discussions during the previous mayor, and that was it. Because he was kind of a stickler for not doing that as well. Basically, everything that's on the agenda should be business. You're voting on it, you're discussing it, and you're moving on. Now, you can put stuff on there in a way that you could word it as a motion, make a motion, discuss it, and go through that, and then vote it down, or not vote on it, or defer it, or table it, or whatever, which is what the correct way of doing that would be. Put it on there, get a first and second. Because basically, if 2 people don't want to discuss it, the council shouldn't be discussing it. That's the general basic ballpark. If 2 people don't want to discuss it, you shouldn't be wasting everybody's time with a discussion.
But if you put it on there as discussion, one person could
Yeah, I mean,
discuss it all night long.
you could. You technically could.
You could put it on there, a typical thing would be approval of consideration for a farmer's market.
But you can also,
Then, if it got a second, it could be discussed. If it didn't get a second, it'd be just like you said.
Yeah.
If 2 people didn't want it, then, you know, it just goes away, and you go to the next item. But if the approval of the farmer's market got a second, then you could discuss it. But if one person wanted to get carried away and try to tie it up all night long, you could call for the
call for the question.
If you put it on there for discussion, it's like a filibuster. You won't be able to call the question.
Right.
Because there is no question.
And that's why they shouldn't be on there at all. Nowhere on the agenda whatsoever. Under new business, old business, unfinished business, nothing.
So I could express my opinions to y'all all night, and there's
Start reading
nothing
the
Under
else.
Bible.
discussion, you could.
Right.
And that
Start
is
reading
what I'm
verses out
afraid
of the
of.
Bible, start reading the
But the thing
dictionary.
is, if you put it under a certain item, or a certain end of the meeting, so to speak, you can sit here and discuss it all night long, everybody else can leave.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna
But
have
because
to
business is over with, everybody else can get on and walk out.
Business is not over until you adjourn.
Well, if you're sitting here discussing all night long, then you could decide yourself anytime you want to leave. I think for Bob's sake too, as he's doing the agenda, we need to clarify whether we're going to do discussions or not do them. And if we're not going to have a place for them, then we ought to just not do them, unless it's under a first and a second, and then you go into that category. But as far as doing a discussion and changing it to a vote, you can't.
You can't do that.
That would be an amendment.
Well,
And that,
I
you know,
like the way we do it.
well, the way we do it, we shouldn't be doing it. Again, it shouldn't be under new business. You should keep that category for business.
Okay.
Or we could just take it off altogether and never do discussions unless you got it in the form of approval, and then be done with it. And that would shorten the meetings as well. Because if 2 people don't want to discuss it, then you just don't discuss it. So which way y'all want to do it? Not do it at all, or put it under as a place?
But you have a motion and a second on the floor.
So y'all ready to vote?
I have nothing else to say.
But if we turn it down, then we're comfortable just doing no more discussions. Is that
No,
Leave it to-
you're not going to say that we can't discuss something if it gets a first and a second.
Oh, yeah, if it gets first, yeah, because it's,
Right.
yeah, it's on there then as a new business and it's approved.
Okay.
You ready? All in favor then of adding discussion item to whatever it is, number 9, to the whatever it's called, rules of order, do so with show of hands. And all opposed?
Okay, we'll keep it the way it is.
Well, you got to do it under first and second.
I understand.
Okay. Next item D, first reading of ordinance 1305 to annex property located at Richland County TMS 33000107, Dutch Fork Blue, and this is better known as the District 5 Administrative Office Building. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I think we've looked at that property many times, and they have indicated that they wanted to many times. I think it goes right along with our being passive, not trying to take anything. If they want to be a part of town, we'll let it happen.
Any other discussion? All in favor then of first reading of the ordinance to annex the,
We don't get any tax rebate from that.
their,
They don't pay all this tax.
They don't pay, they don't buy
Yeah,
a
they don't
business
pay
license.
anything either.
And remember, we have no tax millage.
I know.
but if they ever decide one day to move and build somewhere else, that'll be, and I'm assuming, I didn't have to see it on here, but that would be commercial designation. And it'll go to the planning and they'll attach it, whatever. Everybody in favor, do so with show of hands. Next item is presentation by citizens. This is where anyone who wants to speak to the Irmo Town Council about anything on the agenda, or anything, whether it's on the agenda or not, can do so. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record, and anyone who want to address council.
Yeah, Jake.
Good evening, I'm Jacqueline Buck. I am here as the Executive Director for Keep the Midlands Beautiful. We're located at 1307 Augusta Road, West Columbia. Just wanted to thank the council for being a partner with Keep the Midlands Beautiful. We did our spring cleanup this past Saturday. We had 23 volunteers come out. They did different areas of town. We did meet between 8:30 and 9 o'clock here in the town hall parking lot. We had several volunteers that came early and left to work at McGregor Presbyterian. We had several groups of people that came and worked at Royal Tower and Eastview. We had couples that came and decided to work in their own neighborhoods. So they came and got supplies and worked in their own neighborhoods. And all told, we had 23 volunteers. Actually, just as I came back in tonight, with Keep the Midlands Beautiful, we asked people to send in reports of the bags and trash that they pick up, and it just comes in. And just before I came, I had another one hit that somebody had picked up 3 bags of trash in their neighborhood. So I'm still compiling some data, but I wanted to let you know that an estimated 2 tons of yard debris was picked up. 4 electronic waste units was picked up out of Eastview. We had 32 bags of trash, 8 recycled bags of trash, and again 23 volunteers. I wanted to especially thank Councilman Youngner and Mayor Heidi King for coming out, and the ever so wonderful police chief that came out, and of course the attorney Jake Moore came out, and the Arbor Day, Irmo Arbor Day Committee came out as well. But wanted to just say thank you so much for supporting Keep the Midlands Beautiful. And also, Keep the Midlands Beautiful was just notified that we did receive a grant for 5 recycle bins to be used in Irmo. So they will be the large metal recycle bins. The only restriction will be that they have to be used in a park or athletic area. So that was one of the things that I did mention to you about, Mr. Brown, about the grant that I was petitioning for. It can be used in the Veterans Park or this park. They are large metal bins, and I will correspond that information with the town administrator to let him see what they look like, where he'd like to use them. I did ask for more so that we could use it in the new park, and there'll always be other opportunities for us to get more. But as it stands, we have 5 large recycled metal bins that will need to be fastened down, but they'll be for recyclables. So again, thanks so much, and we look forward to your support in the future.
I wanted to ask, now what's the difference in, you said 32 bags of trash and 8 recycle? Is the recycle like plastic and?
Recyclables are like bottles, cans, things that we take to the recycle, that they can be recycles, and also a lot of people will use recycled yard, like leaves and things like that they'll recycle in compost. So there's a little bit of difference there. There was a lot of bottles, cans, and that kind of material over on Eastview.
And people separate those when they're picking up, one of them picks
Yes.
up regular trash and one of them picks up the?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Any other questions for me? Yes,
The
sir.
recyclable bins that you were referring to, what is the value of those bins a piece?
They are right between $800 and $1,000 a piece.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jake Moore, 335 Woodward Point Road, Columbia, South Carolina. Before I make the comments I came to make this evening, I would like to thank Keep the Midlands Beautiful for what they did. They organized a wonderful event, and some of the results that came about Saturday were rather remarkable. I believe that I had a mayor and a councilman who were incredibly sore the next day. Mr. Younger basically said he could hardly get out of bed, which was showing his total lack of physical strength, but he can use a chainsaw. He definitely can use a chainsaw.
We're getting too old for this.
Oh, well, yeah,
Some of us.
I felt the same thing on my ankles Sunday morning were definitely talking to me. We worked for about 5 hours hard. We were crawling up and down hills with logs and cutting up trees, and those several tons of yard debris basically came from the 3 of us. And
It's
it was
about time we got some work out of y'all.
absolutely, but Keep the Midlands Beautiful is something that is just a deserving organization, because I am on the board, so I have somewhat of a prejudicial nature, but some of the things that they have in the works for the future, not only for Irmo, but for this Irmo St. Andrews community, if they come to fruition, are significant, and Jack has done a great job for them. The thing that I would like to announce is last Friday evening, I think most of you are aware, but you may not be, Councilman Younginer and myself, on behalf of the Arbor Day Committee in the town, and the mayor on behalf of the town, appeared at the Mid-Carolina Electric Co-op annual meeting. You may not know this, but at the annual meeting of Mid-Carolina, they have between 3,000 and 5,000 people show up. I was dumbfounded with the number of people I saw at the Mid-Carolina annual meeting. The town of Irmo and the Irmo Arbor Day Committee were honored I believe it was last Friday night or Friday night before that, with what they called the Spirit of Cooperation Award. Now, we have it. It happens to be located at present at Councilman Younger's home because he forgot to bring it. But we have it, and we got it, and it should be displayed, I think, at Town Hall, which is where he said it's going to be displayed. I am advised that the Spirit of Cooperation Award is a big deal from Mid-Carolina Electric. They do not give this award every year. I think that the Spirit of Cooperation Award has only been given 6 times in the history of the company. And they gave it to the town and to the Arbor Day Committee for the work that has been done with beautification and the leadership that has been provided to the overall Midlands area as a result of what Irmo has done. I sincerely believe that the town council deserves to share in that award, as do the employees of the town. But I did want everyone to know that the award was received. We brought it home, and when they made the presentation, they said some very, very nice things about Irmo. Mid-Carolina has been tremendously cooperative in regard to the beautification efforts of the town. They've been a big sponsor of the Arbor Day, but they've done many other things too. But it was very nice of them to have done that, and I wanted to share with you that we received the award.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address the council? Being none, next item on the agenda is the executive session. Is there anything needed?
Nothing I know of.
Next item.
Can you just give me an update on the park?
You got a man sitting right there who can tell you what the problems are at the park.
According to the schedule, according to the schedule they gave us last time, we're supposed to be doing the
How we doing on the culvert? City of Columbia
signal
water.
walls.
Frank went out there today
Yeah.
and was doing an inspection out there today. He said they had 24 feet of it laid and he was not there.
And then the grading's in process.
I'm not sure.
Silk fence.
Probably not.
It's in silk fence. Silk fence is done.
Say that again.
Silk fence.
It's about 80%.
They got more, yeah. Yeah, they've still got something to put up.
They're using that filter socks.
Yeah, that's what it's on.
We're not ready.
So,
What time are we on schedule?
Frank said that they were about a week behind schedule on the culvert. Is that right? We'll have to check. But I'm not sure. I'm just trying to help out the permits, trying to get these permits finalized, but Frank's handling the working with the construction on that.
That answer your question?
so the storm and, so we're about a week behind on everything then. That pushes everything back a week?
I just assumed so, but I hadn't.
Okay.
I had to ask Frank there. Councilman.
So that pushes everything back a week? What?
They should be able to catch up.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had a lot of rain lately too.
If you follow the schedule here, you'll see it ends in like June.
Y'all should never have given him this.
I know.
I told
Take it away from him.
Nah, this is my park.
There's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of fluff built in that.
Okay. No major issues that we can't overcome.
Not my knowledge.
Okay. Cool.
So,
Administrator Brown, I need to see you once we get, I need to get you to sign the maintenance agreement with the DOT.
Okay.
so is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Bye.
We are adjourned.